Welcome to the magical journey beyond mediocrity, where the mystical and the practical become aligned. You're listening to Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success, with your host, Seeker's Guide and coach, Kristin Lloyd. Kristin guides you through mindset shifts to increase your consciousness and live your best life. So let's leave mediocrity behind and step into your magical, magnificent life with Kristin.
Hello, everyone. I am your host and Seeker's Guide, Kristin Lloyd. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am so excited that you are all here. This is my inaugural show, Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success. And I am so excited to share this with you because this is going to be an amazing, amazing journey. Today's show topic is, are you a seeker? Are you a seeker? What does it mean to be a seeker? I also wanted to share a little bit about why I named the show Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success. And that is because the seeker's path is one that is a spiritual journey in addition to our human life. It has been said by many gurus that the seeker's path is one of a spiritual being living a human existence, a human life. And our connection to source, our connection to our spirituality goes back to the beginning of time. And spirituality is sometimes linked with religious philosophy or religion. But in the terms of Meant for More and success, we're going to be talking about what success means to you. We're going to be talking about alignment with source, with God consciousness, with your higher power, whatever you choose to refer to it as. And the alignment of living your life's purpose. Your life's path and your life's purpose is why I have called it the seeker's path, okay? There's much more than meets the eye, and we are much more than just a physical body. We're more than the sum of our bank accounts. We're more than our relationships, our job, our career, and what is expected of us. We are so much greater than that. And as a community, and when we come together, we are able to make and establish great things. And so we are all human beings living a spiritual experience, but we are so much more than that. And seekers are individuals who have found or who have started to begin the journey of recognizing that they are meant for more than just a mediocre life, more than mediocrity, more than the usual routine, getting up, going to work, coming home, going to sleep. They choose to connect with something greater than themselves. And that is what we will be talking about on this show. And my future guests will come on and share their stories of Meant for More, how they impact the world, and their own experiences and their own spirituality in terms of knowing that they had this calling on their life, that they were meant for more. So seekers embody an earthly presence and a spiritual path. Seekers desire both spiritual connectedness to source, like God consciousness, which I mentioned earlier, and the principles to live an abundant, full, rich life. But this abundant, full, rich life is subjective. And what I mean by that is it does not necessarily relate to dollars in your bank account. An abundant, rich life can mean many different things to many different people. And so that's why I illustrate that it's subjective. In my own journey as a seeker, I've come across so many people who are looking to live to their fullest potential on the seeker's path and have awakened their minds, their consciousness, through daily practices and habits, utilizing characteristics of a successful seeker. And again, this is different for every person. So what one person does as a seeker and what they identify as success will be different from another. And that's something that we will also be talking about on this journey. And since balance within one's life is something to achieve, it's not necessarily a state of being, but each seeker may be looking to achieve greater alignment or balance in one's life. And in working with individuals who have been seekers and in identifying different seekers along my own path, I've found that there are about 11 fundamental areas in which seekers choose to grow, tend to grow. And so that's why this show topic is, are you a seeker? So how have you identified yourself as a seeker? And what are you desiring from your life that is, let's say, beyond the norm, beyond status quo, beyond mediocrity? And so in order to understand more deeply who a seeker is and what characteristics a seeker possesses, we're going to be talking about the characteristics of a seeker in this show and what a seeker desires to possess, to have within them, to be in full alignment, to experience joy, a state of contentment, and to live in their purpose and reach their full potential. So more specifically, a seeker is someone who wants to live life on their terms and someone who desires more from their life, whether it be career, business, personal life, free time, from themselves, even in terms of income. But most importantly, it's something that they've found that's either on their spiritual path or a part of giving back and receiving. So when we talk about giving back and receiving, that's a cycle. Giving and receiving is a cycle on the spiritual path, and one is guided through spiritual alignment. So a seeker is someone who wants more from life. They desire more from career or their business or their personal lives in terms of their relationships, in terms of their free time. Sometimes this is also related to happiness. In this term, success can also be synonymous with happiness, again, because it's subjective. What one person's meaning of success is, maybe another person's definition of happiness. So a seeker is someone who seeks out greater knowledge, connection with others, with source, an idea of oneness, something that brings us all together, someone who seeks to live a purposeful, passionate life, someone who wants vibrant relationships, someone who wants to live authentically, someone who is offering a greater contribution to others in society, sharing their gifts. And this is an important one because every one of us has something that we have to share that's specific to us. We have very individualized gifts. We make our mark on society with those gifts. And part of being a seeker might be finding out what those gifts are, finding out what living on purpose means, what living a purposeful life means, what finding one's soul purpose means. Soul as in S-O-U-L, not S-O-L-E, someone's soul. Again, aligning with spirituality. So, and someone who has a career that is aligned with and they feel happy to engage with daily. Seekers live abundantly. They believe in collaboration and are equally committed to success as they are to their spiritual path. So the spiritual path does not necessarily trump success. Success does not necessarily trump the spiritual path. It's in alignment. So you will hear us talking about alignment in great detail on the course of this show and with my future guests. So the foundation of a seeker is established in characteristics. And as we talk about this, my guests will be talking about one of these 11 characteristics that I've developed that is very core to a seeker. And it's important that we talk about this so that everybody kind of understands what these characteristics are and how they relate back to a seeker and how one might understand that they're meant for more. So the first step that a seeker typically comes across is confusion. And with that confusion comes clarity. And clarity is our first C word. These are the 11 C's of a seeker. So the first C that we'll be talking about is clarity. And that's when a seeker recognizes that they're not living in alignment, that they're not living to their fullest potential, that they're not living a life they truly desire. So there seems to be this spiritual quest, the seeker's quest. And that's where meant for more really comes in and becomes really impactful, because these individuals typically struggle with, where am I? Who am I? What is my purpose? What do I want? What do I not want? And that's typically the first step to recognizing that they're a seeker. Sometimes there can be an actual incident or a specific event that happens that throws them into this conundrum where they seek clarity. So I've seen people who have had a car accident or a near-death experience or something like that, where then they seek more from their lives because they know, whoa, that was a close call. But when we talk about clarity, it's in the people that I've worked with, it's typically sought after a feeling, a gnawing, a knowing that there's something more. There's something beyond what is in the present. And so the clarity comes after a series of questions are asked. And clarity is a knowing of where you are on your path, where you desire to go, having a greater or grander vision of your life and what you're following on your path. When seekers have clarity, they're able to move more swiftly on their path and in their purpose towards all they seek easily and effortlessly. Initially, what happens with a seeker is the fear, the anxiety that comes from the decision to move past their current state of being, their current state of mind, to grow. Because growth, personal growth, professional growth, is not necessarily a walk in the park. It's not really easy. It's not something that people think that they're going to walk into and it's going to be a bed of roses. I think people may think that way, like, oh, I'm going to go and, I'm going to grow personally. I'm going to grow professionally. This is going to be amazing. And they're focused on the outcome, and focusing on the outcome is amazing and is fantastic. However, the growth that comes with the process is there's a lot of growing pains there, and they're different for everyone. And so the second C of a seeker is courage, because in order to grow, one needs the courage to grow beyond who they are in this very moment. So when a seeker decides, okay, I'm going to take the next step in my life, and this is what I want, and this is what I desire, and this is what I feel is best in alignment with where I'm supposed to be. And it is sometimes, most times, a feeling, a knowing, a gnawing within oneself that it's time to grow, that they need to go beyond where they are. And that requires great courage, bravery, and inner strength, which guides that seeker outside of their comfort zone, because that personal growth is sometimes very scary and not familiar. So the courage requires an eagerness to stretch oneself, even when it's really uncomfortable, even when there may be ties that need to be severed, or relationships that need to be ended, or moves that need to be made, whether it's cross-country or internationally. When seekers are aligned with courage, there's a greater strength within them to continue even when things become uncomfortable or difficult, because there is that knowing that they're on the right path. There is that knowing and that trust that they are being divinely guided, again, which is where that spiritual connection comes in. And we will be also talking about connection with source and connection with others in this life. And so the third element or core characteristic of a seeker is connection, to have solid relationships with others, with the divine, with source energy, with your higher power, whether you call it God or God consciousness or whatever you determine it to be. It's a cornerstone for seekers because there has to be that trust there. So in the traditional, I want to say Greco-Roman tradition, people say, let go and let God. So whatever term it means for you, letting go and releasing where you are and trusting that you will land where you should be is part of relying on that connection, part of where seekers thrive, achieve, and succeed, because they're taking a leap. You're taking a new step into a new direction. You're taking a step into the unknown. So seekers are connected to source and others. Love flows freely and anything is possible. Needs are fulfilled and knowledge of self is gained through relationships and connection to others, connection to source. And so that's very, very, very important. And the other C's, compassion, empathy for self and others. As you're going through this transition as a seeker, there has to be a great empathy for self and others, a warmth, a concern, a tenderness for one's own struggles, because there will be struggles. And this is developed through love and kindness. When seekers are compassionate with themselves and with others, they're able to experience and practice empathy with self and others, which makes them a well-rounded individual. So that's why compassion is so important. Self-forgiveness is something that is very important for seekers as they're on their journey, because forgiveness is important. Forgiveness for the past, forgiveness for the struggle, forgiveness for towards others. And so expressing this compassion is very important also for that spiritual alignment. Confidence is also important. Confidence that one is on one's path, that stepping out is part of the journey, a knowing that you're special, unique, that you have gifts that the world needs, which we've already discussed. A state of certainty in self, a certainty in one's path, the capability that a seeker can achieve his or her goals. When seekers have confidence, there's a solid knowing and belief in the path and their gifts, that the path is divinely guided and supported at all times, even when they may be led in a different direction. And the confidence in that moment is a reminder. And when the courage wanes And there is that need for courage and bravery and confidence. Wait a minute, I am divinely supported. I am protected. I am on my path. Because there are struggles that happen as a seeker is on his or her journey. Living this human experience and having that spiritual connection is so important. And we also will be talking about the mind-body connection, body-mind connection, in terms of how maybe meditation and prayer and other spiritual practices, yoga and things like that, are utilized to maintain alignment, to maintain forward momentum, and to continue that personal and professional growth. So, so far we've talked about 5 of the 11 core characteristics of a seeker. So I'm going to keep moving forward here. So, contribution. As a seeker contributes to society, to oneself, it's a gift, an offering of substance, time given to others or society from the heart with love, generosity, and kindness. When I say society, I mean, it could be one's family. It could be contribution comes in many forms. There is no limitation on contribution. When seekers contribute to their gifts, so a seeker could be contributing to the world, to the universe, to this life by living their gifts. So when seekers contribute their gifts from their hearts, they open the doors to abundance and prosperity. So they open the doors to giving back. So giving and receiving is on a cycle. And so that's one of the divine laws of prosperity. So giving, it could be giving of time, giving of one's, giving items, so donating, volunteering. That's also what we determine as success, again, subjectively, because it has been scientifically proven that those who volunteer are actually have higher rates of happiness. So giving of your time, giving to others, again, back to connection, right? So these are all kind of intertwined. Connection, contribution and connection are very much connected because that contribution opens the floodgates for receiving. So receiving not necessarily monetarily. So when we think of contribution, someone goes to a job and they get paid. That is an interaction. So that's a full circle giving and receiving. When there is contribution of gifts, when there is contribution of volunteering one's time, offering of substance, it's not necessarily clear how it returns back to the person. But in that circle, it could just be in the level of happiness, in the level of well-being. And so that, again, is interpreted by the receiver. So there's not a keeping score here, but when giving contribution, offering a gift of substance, the well-being is increased. And that has been noted in some of the scientific journals with regards to like volunteering specifically. So that contribution, whether it's you knowing that you have a special gift that you offer to this world, or whether it's something that you're giving of your time or your energy to a specific organization or giving, volunteering or somewhat, there is that generosity and kindness which is perpetuated and then returned in a variety of different ways. So that's another element of a seeker who is seeking connection, but contribution, giving freely of themselves, and living in their fullest potential, whether it be giving of their gifts that they are paid for or giving of their gifts which is free from the heart. So the next C is consciousness. Consciousness is what we also term as awakened. So a seeker has a higher consciousness. Well, anyone listening to this will probably be awakened to higher consciousness because it is the awareness or perception of one's purpose in their life. So your higher consciousness is that you recognize you are connected. We are all connected. And you are connected to source energy. You're connected to source. An awakened state where you're aware that you're a spiritual being living a human experience. When seekers are aligned with higher consciousness, you're connected to source. You're living in an awakened state with love and passion and purpose. And this allows you to continue to grow exponentially because you recognize that you're on the spiritual path, that you're on the seeker's path, that you're continuing to seek beyond a silent existence, an existence that is mediocre. You desire something greater, that alignment, that connection, and that comes with consciousness. Connecting to your higher self is very important. So that's where consciousness comes in. And all of these things require, the next C, a great commitment, a dedication to your path, to your life's journey, a promise to yourself to grow and learn and flourish and evolve to your greatest potential. Your commitment is a dedication to your own growth in this lifetime and to transform in an area that was, let's say, previously stagnant or stuck. So the commitment to grow requires courage, requires compassion, requires confidence, and requires clarity. So again, these are all intertwined because that commitment is that dedication to yourself that it's not always going to be easy, but it will be worth it. And when seekers are committed to their path and to their growth, there's limitless potential for where they can achieve in this life. And as you'll see from my future guests, some guests will talk about their commitment to their journey and the difficulty at sometimes to stay committed, but that the passion and purpose beyond just the commitment was what helped them really to stay focused on their path. And it also takes consistency. So repeated actions towards intentions, goals, and moving towards your path through daily, weekly, yearly actions. Consistency is huge on the seeker's path because there are just some days, just like commitment, that you're just not all in spiritually, mentally, emotionally. We are spiritual beings living a human experience. I know I've said it a dozen times, but that gnawing inside you as a seeker will help you, will remind you to stay consistent, will remind you that there's something greater than just status quo, than just what is right now, and that your growth is so important to where you want to be. And in life, there's that saying, it's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. So although many seekers, and as we are living this human existence, we will have a place, a deadline, a goal where we wish to go, but really that's just a marker. It's a line in the sand because once people get there, they will always want to go beyond it. There will always be something beyond that line, beyond that initial goal. And so while it takes commitment and consistency to get there, you're going to go beyond that as a seeker. Because there isn't just one end goal. There isn't just one end line. There is alignment and there is the consistency to stay in alignment. That's the next step. The other part of this, again, I'm going on to number 10 now because we've talked about all of these and I will repeat what they are, is collaboration. Collaboration with others to reach greater heights, to work with others to obtain that higher form of living, to go beyond just meant for more, but to work with others in seeking out the questions of one's own journey. So as we talked about connection, collaboration goes beyond. It's working together to achieve a higher goal. So when seekers acknowledge that by working with others, they can actually achieve more, this also gets rid of the scarcity aspect. So competition is something that is scarcity driven. There's only so much. So seekers recognize that there is no such thing as competition, and that by collaborating together, there is greater connection, but also a greater awareness and experiencing that higher consciousness. So competition is a scarcity tactic within one's mindset. We're going to be talking a lot about mindset too, because mindset of a seeker is very important as commitment and consistency come into play. Collaboration is the ability to team up and work with others to spread one's wings, share one's message, and also the awareness that we're divinely guided and there's more than enough for us all. So if you're listening to the evening news, scarcity is everywhere, right? But within spiritual philosophy, spiritual principles, there's more than enough, and it begins with one's mindset, which leads us to compensation as our 11th C of a seeker. The art of receiving with ease and flow, giving and receiving with ease and flow. The theory of divine compensation states that we're all worthy and deserving. Doing what you love is important for experiencing joy and in manifesting your desires. Compensation is payment for honoring your truth, your purpose, and by filling a gap in the marketplace with your unique gifts and also selling your services. So abundance within compensation is everywhere. So in the term of a seeker's guide to success, again, there are many guests that are living in their purpose, living in their truth, and are being compensated as a result of living authentically and living in their truth. And really, it doesn't have to be just service professionals. There are many professionals that are doing exactly what they love. I've met carpenters and builders that are living their truth, living their purpose, and getting compensated for doing what they love. So it's really about finding what brings you joy. And there is that saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's so true, because when you are in alignment, which is the goal of the seeker's path, the seeker's journey, when you're living in alignment, you recognize that you are meant for more because you can have it all. You can do what you love. You can earn a good living. You can be connected spiritually. You can give back to your community, be consistent, be committed to your personal and professional growth, and rise above, rise beyond, go beyond mediocrity. Because there are way too many people in this world who are absolutely miserable and not sure of what tomorrow brings. And the seeker's path is about gaining clarity to what the meaning of life is without going into an existential discussion. What the meaning of life is to them. And so again, the seeker's guide to success is a subjective experience, but can equate with happiness, can be very equated with happiness, can be very confusing at first, but then when focused on clarity, what that person's needs and desires are, and when they get attuned or become in tune with that higher consciousness, what they want, who they are, where they're going, almost that existential piece, then everything starts to fall into place and becomes very easy, which is what alignment is. Alignment is ease and flow. So this show, which I'm very excited to share with you, is meant for more, the Seeker's Guide to Success. And the seeker is someone who focuses on alignment, personal, professional growth, and living life to their fullest potential on a spiritual path. And I love to utilize that Rumi quote, "What you seek is seeking you," because there are so many people that seek something either within themselves or outside themselves. It's important to know what a seeker is and what a seeker seeks. And again, it's different for every person. So I will go over the 11 characteristics of a seeker again. So clarity, courage, connection, compassion, confidence, contribution, consciousness, commitment, consistency, collaboration, and compensation. I've also talked to a couple people about this, and I've been asked about, excuse me, choices and curiosity. Choices and curiosity. Currently, they're not one of the 11, but I think that it's very important to acknowledge that choices is important for a seeker because you are making choices every day. We all make choices every day. We make choices to go to work. We make choices on what we're going to eat for lunch. We make choices on what we're going to feed our children. We make choices on relationships. We make choices personally and professionally every day. So that is very, very important. But in making choices, we're also focused back on living authentically and living our truth. And then curiosity, I think that there's a childlike curiosity with individuals and with seekers to, again, go beyond that mediocrity, to go beyond what it is that we are living in the day-to-day. So meant for more is something that guides our core existence. So whether you love mountain climbing or biking or, any of these types of things, ballet, yoga, meant for more, again, is specific to the seeker, specific to each and every one of us. But when we find that we are in flow and in alignment with these 11 core characteristics, the possibilities are really endless for living a full, passionate, purposeful life because we're then in alignment with ourselves. And that happiness, that glow, that well-being, it flows naturally. So from these 11 characteristics, everything else seems to flow, whether it's physical activity or eating right or relationships, parenting, compensation and success in one's personal and professional life, and that sort of thing. And that's what we will be talking about with my future guests, because I really do have a very wide variety of guests that will be coming on talking about their experience and how they knew that they were meant for more, and also their contributions and how they are living in their truth now, living in alignment now as a seeker, and how they are contributing, right, to that broader knowledge, that broader piece, and also going back to how we're all connected. So I think that is very, very, very important. And I cannot wait for you guys to tune in to hear all of my my guests coming up. And in this show, I wanted to give you a bird's eye view of what a seeker is, how a seeker may define one's grander vision for one's life, connectedness to others, to one's spiritual path, and the principles for living. So Now I have some questions for you, the listeners. So, are you a seeker? So, how do you know if you are a seeker? Well, you may already know based on the 11 C's that I've already discussed, but the questions that come to me right away are you living authentically in the now? Do you feel that you are living on purpose? Do you feel that you're going day to day and that you are living with direction? That you are actively growing day to day? And a seeker can be growing in multiple areas of life, depending on what you're focused on. So whether it's your personal health, your physical well-being, or your relationships, or your career, or your spirituality, these are multiple areas of life. And with the day-to-day, we're busy. We're busy human beings. We all have very busy lives. But there is a time where we are able to reflect and say, where do I want to go? What do I really, really want to do? Am I living my truth today? Am I living that today? Am I ready to go beyond where I am, to grow beyond where I am, and to take that very next step? As a seeker, again, there's that initial commitment to one's personal growth, but also taking the daily, weekly, or monthly action steps to get there. And that sometimes is scary, and that's where the courage comes in, because it requires that courage to grow beyond where you are. And it's not always easy. Sometimes that ease and flow of alignment comes in and bam, you're there. And the ease and flow is there. But for some people, that spiritual growth process is uncomfortable. And it's okay to acknowledge that. And when you grow, it's like growing pains. There is this uncomfortable nature, but then the ease and flow of, okay, this is what I want. This is where I'm supposed to be. Things start to come easily. They come faster, and you start to experience that ease and flow because then you are in alignment. But sometimes getting to your alignment, getting to, wait a minute, what is it that I want? Where am I going? What's the destination that I have programmed for myself on the map? What's the destination that I have programmed for myself on the map if I stay where I am? So I believe that there was a quote that states, and I think it might have been a Tony Robbins quote, change happens when the pain to stay the same outweighs the pain to grow. And I know I'm misquoting that quote, but excuse me, when people are ready to change, when seekers are ready to grow, the pain of the growth is not as difficult or painful or hard as the pain to stay the same. So staying the same is really what keeps people stuck. And so that feeling of being stuck, of stagnancy, of not going anywhere, is what really helps people to say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get to where I want to be. And so these are the initial questions that I have for you as a seeker are, what is it that you want? What destination do you have in mind for your life? And what steps do you need to take to begin your seeker's journey, to begin your spiritual path, to begin to trust that you are meant for more, that your definition of success can and will happen as you move forward in your life. And that is what's most important, is that you start to cultivate a greater vision for your life. You start to cultivate the clarity, the cultivation of the clarity. You start to cultivate clarity, because when a seeker first begins the seeker's journey, and I have this visual of this path and this person with a walking stick and a backpack. When you first start out, you begin really, not aggressively, you begin excitedly on what it's going to be. And the journey takes you more than you take the journey. The journey transforms you from the inside out. But it's always important to have great clarity on where you want to go, because if you do not have a destination, you could end up anywhere. So having that greater clarity, having that greater vision of where you want to go allows you to then work backwards and take steps on where you want to go. So these are my questions for you as you begin the seeker's journey, as you acknowledge that you are meant for more. And I invite you all to come back and listen every week as I have some amazing guests lined up over the next couple weeks and beyond that on our show Meant for More, The Seeker's Guide to Success. And I want to ask you to dig into these questions and to ask yourself, am I a seeker? Am I living to my truest, fullest potential in this life right now? Am I connected? Do I have clarity? Am I confident on my path? Do I have the courage to take the next step? Am I being compassionate to myself or others? Am I connected to others? Am I having the best connection? Am I committed? Am I collaborating? Am I consistent? And am I living and working in a field where I am being compensated for what I love to do? And so all of these 11 elements, the clarity, the courage, compassion, confidence, connection, contribution, consciousness, commitment, consistency, collaboration, and compensation are the 11 core elements of a seeker. So I invite you to start working on the first one, which is clarity. And through my guests, we will see all of the other C's that have been worked through, that come up. And these will give you some different experiential journeys of other seekers who have already gone through or are still on the seeker's path and are still growing into their fullest potential. So again, I invite you to ask yourself these questions to gain better clarity on your vision for your life, and ask yourself, are you a seeker? And with that, I leave you until next time. I ask you to continue seeking your success. And for some freebies, head on over to kristinlloyd.com and click on the freebies tab. And there's more information there on the seekers and the seeker's journey. So until next time, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Meant for More, the Seeker's Guide to Success. But the fun doesn't end here. Head over to KristinLloyd.com for your Seeker's Guide workbook filled with exercises to help you go from mediocre to magically magnificent.